and welcome to the elimination rounds of the LEC Winter Playoffs for Team Heretics and SK Gaming are fighting for their lives in today's series. I'm Laure, I will be your host throughout the weekend with GB and Trimby, watching the best League of Legends Europe has to offer. I guess we can't Empire for now.
Europe.
Europe
nice save, I like that.
Nice save. I mean, yeah, we gotta be realistic here. How are you guys doing?
I'm doing fantastic, and there's gonna be even more fantastic games coming in.
Hopefully. Last week we saw Team BDS and G2 Esports advancing to the upper finals. What was the story of both series, Trimby, you would say?
I think G2 series, at least the Fnatic one, I would say looked a bit more sketchy compared to the BDS time, I would say, because of course, as you can see, BDS two clean 2-0s, I would say, right? They were the team that was like just managing all the leads that they had. Well, G2, as far as the GX game was like quite decent, I would say, right? 2-0, like quite convincingly. The series against Fnatic was actually a bit sketchy when it came to like the second game specifically. And in the third game, there was quite a lot of fighting, right? But at the end of the day, they are the ones who won, right?
And that's the thing. These two teams are the best in Europe. That we currently have right now. And they have proven to be head and shoulders above the rest of the pack. I don't always necessarily think that it's because of their early games between these two teams, actually. What I think they do really well compared to some of the other teams is actually just that they understand their mid-game very well, specifically their setups around the later objectives and their team fights. I mean, BDS team fighting has been absolutely amazing, and Caps has been smashing it for G2.
And on the other side of the brackets, for the teams that we have today, just a reminder that in the interest of not having a rematch and the same scenarios that we saw earlier in the playoffs, the winner of Team Heretics and SK will face off against Vitality, and the winner of GX versus MDK will face off against, the opposite. GX and MDK will face Vitality, and the other ones will face off against Fnatic. Let's focus maybe on the first series we have on our hands today, SK versus Heretics. How do we think this one is going to play out when it comes to what we saw from these teams last week?
I mean, one thing about the system, I wish it was last year, because otherwise I wouldn't have faced G2 twice.
Yeah, you don't want to see this.
With Koi, and it was quite unfortunate to say the least.
You have to beat every team to be the best, Trimby.
Yeah, and that's true, and that's why we didn't deserve to go further, right? But when it comes to this series, right, it's gonna be, I think it's gonna be a show, right? Like SK versus Team Heretics, whoever loses, like, you know, gets to only prepare for the spring split.
And they're in a really bad spot right now, GB, especially when you consider Heretics' 5-game lose streak. Nothing of what we expected coming from the expectations we have with this team.
I think that's the right one. It's the expectations coming into it, because SK didn't really have that many expectations towards them, but Heretics at least had a legacy of their players. They had a certain resume where you expected more out of them. Every single player on this roster has won an LEC title, and while individually they're not always showing up in laning phase as they maybe would have done in their prime, you still would have expected that their veterancy, the experience would give them some sort of edge in the mid-game. A player who's been playing for almost, you know, the 5 years, how many years they've played now, should know what you do in these scenarios. And that's where Heretics has let me down the most, actually. It's at the macro level, which I did not expect.
But that's the thing. Were we fair to expect so much from this team? Could you expect the same amount of magic, the same amount of success that they could reciprocate in another setting, different team and different meta, Trimby?
The thing is, right, when you're a player, you really want to showcase, right, like the years that you've played. You want to show people that you're there because you actually deserve it, and you want to be out there, you know, to be the best. But right now, as we can see, right, both SK and Team Heretics are struggling, especially Team Heretics when you have like faces like that. Like, I mean, I'm not such face as them, right? But if I'm in their spot, like, I really want to just show people off and like make sure that they can actually get better and better with each week, because if they don't, they just get out.
Yeah, and we'll talk about Heretics' bot lane a bit later, but first let's check in with their opponents, SK Gaming and the head coach, Swiffer. Take it away, Trouble.
Thank you so much, Laure. Swiffer, thank you also for joining me for this interview ahead of your game versus Team Heretics.
Thank you for having me.
Now, I can't tell you that this is going to be a very pleasant interview for you.
Didn't expect it.
I'll try my best to make it that. Deja vu. We're sitting here again after winter 2023. Best of ones going great. Early season going great. We hit the best ofs and it collapses. What has happened this time around?
Yeah, I think that coming into 14-2, we didn't really hit our stride in that week. I think other teams did, obviously, right? I think we also got found out pretty hard on the things that we were good at and we prioritized throughout the regular season. And we didn't adapt quick enough to finding new things that would put us on the front foot going forward. I think Vitality's prep especially was very good into us. And I think they knew exactly what they wanted to do. I also think that as the split went on, we started getting more and more inconsistent, and a lot of frustration started building between players that I think came to a head before the Vitality series. And ever since then, I feel like we've all kind of reset. The players have come together again in a way that we didn't really see it until like week 1. And feeling pretty confident coming into this best of. Yeah.
Talking about confidence, your bot lane is also very confident about their Lucian Nami, Lucian Milio, Lucian whatever from Exekick, right? It was a card you pulled versus Vitality in the best of 1s, and then it was also a card that you pulled versus Vitality in the best of 3s. Now, why do you think your team has that confidence when Lucian hasn't particularly been doing well on the Western world?
I think the first thing that we look to, obviously, is our practice, right? And if we're unable to replicate it on stage, then I think that has something to do with the prep or where we're picking it or like the angles that we're going for. And I think specifically into what Vitality had prepared, I think it was a very good answer into it. And I think that trying to catch them off guard with the same thing twice was perhaps not the best strategy going into that best of 3.
Now, talking about this best of 3 real quickly, because I've got my producer in my ear.
Yeah.
The bot lane of Team Heretics has actually been a shining light for the roster, while your bot lane has sort of been underperforming. Is that a scary part for you walking into the series today?
Not particularly. I think that a lot of the inconsistencies have come about because of kind of disagreements about which way that the meta is going, right? I think that all of that has been resolved. I think we know exactly what we want to do. I think that Heretics' bot lane has been performing really, really well, but I know that our bot lane can match that.
I'm glad to see that all the internal issues that have been plaguing you are gone, and we can't wait to see you on the Rift. Swiffer, best of luck to you and your team. I had that best of 3 versus Team Heretics.
Thank you.
And Laura, back to you.
Thank you so much, Trouble. Nice to have you back, honestly, and amazing to hear from Swiffer, because he was here mentioning that he came down to preparation and that here they have the confidence. Is the confidence going to be enough? Because it feels like SK lost the way they did things in the regular season, and this is what brought them the most success, GB.
Yeah, it's kind of like the same painting that we saw last split, where it looks really good in the beginning and then it starts faltering a little bit. But this time around, I feel like there's multiple reasons for it. If we take a look at the Vitality series they had, they did get 2v2 killed. They did have individual moments where they didn't present the same standards as they would have liked to. But as they also mentioned in the interview, they just got caught off guard by the opponents actually having a counter pick. Second off, I think the fact that they had a split map against them in the first game against Vitality made it really difficult to play. And I would actually overall love to see more of SK spend more time with their bot lane, because when they are making it work, it looks good. But if you leave them by themselves, they have been exposed now.
What has been working for that as well was the way they were setting up Irrelevant for success, Trimby, and it feels like they went away and shifted away from this. And given the way the bot lane is going, maybe they can't find this agency that Irrelevant found success on top lane previously.
Yeah, I mean, when it comes to Irrelevant, extremely versatile player when it came to Ride. This year, he's showing a little bit more of the carry potential, where it clearly works, right? They won so many games with him actually outplaying opponents, and that's where I think they should kind of invest time into, because right, when you want to play champs like Lucian Nami, you want to kind of shun away from those carries. You want to help your team and play like a Sion, maybe an Ornn that he played last time, right? And even though it's a good thing for the draft, it also limits the Irrelevance, like actually relevance in the game, which is, you know, something that you don't want to do with a player like him, right? Especially when he's been performing so well lately.
Yeah, I think Irrelevant certainly a player you can look to get an edge as well, because Wunder often has been on a weak side duty as well, and while he's been doing it well, Irrelevant has also been doing a fantastic job at exposing players who doesn't get the same amount of resources, or if he gets the counter pick. So I'm super curious about that later. Any
last words on bot lane? Because Swiffer was mentioning disagreements maybe throughout the way they were planning the draft, planning the meta, but it didn't work at all for them, Trimby, last year.
Yeah, when you look at it, right, from player perspective, actually, every single player has different perspective. Every single player wants to play things a little bit maybe different. And when it comes out to that, sometimes there is gonna be disagreements, as he said, and you have to actually make sure that you come up together and make like the plan together. Because if you don't and you're not on the same page, it's not gonna look good as they actually looked. And I would say that was like the main thing, for them last week.
And as Trouble suggested, the bot lane is going to be an area of attack for Heretics in this series, and Aragon and Shrimpy will be standing by to tell you why.
Thank you, Law. So, whilst Team Heretics have been struggling in general, it's not all true for the entire team. Me and Trimby thought it'd be a great idea, actually, to highlight FLICKR and Kaiser, because I think they've been getting some unnecessary flack, especially from week 1 where they didn't have the strongest performance, but generally throughout the entire split, they've been performing extremely well. In this clip, you could see right now that they've already got a significant chunk lead. Why is that in terms of build?
Yeah, when it comes to build path, right, FLICKR went for a bit of a different build when it came to like Hell of Blades with the Hui as well, as we can see right now, and he went for the Serrated Dirk, and with the max of the Q, it helps you out poking them, which Hui really wants. Hui as a champion wants to poke, especially on a support position. That's why it was so interesting to see, because it's not a variable that actually people try to do as Kalista, and it was something that actually gave them the edge, because as we can see in the clip soon, it's gonna be quite of a devastating look where like Vitality pretty much looks like they're already out before even the 2v2 starts, where they're like start killing them. And it's really a thing where, yeah, as we can see now, they're just so chunked before we even start commenting on the clip, and then enemy jungler is really forced to come here, which, yeah, as you can see, there's so much pressure that he misses the spells, and it's a 2-for-1 scenario where, yeah, you don't want to be in this position as Vitality.
Yeah, pure 2v2 domination, utilizing adaptive builds extremely well. And in this clip, I believe they've been playing really well around the fundamentals of trading and finding all-ins, using their XP bars. Can you expand on that anymore, Trimby?
Yeah, first of all, from the context perspective, we know that the enemy jungler is not there, and as you can see, FLICKR just got 6, and enemy actually, Team Heretics is playing around here, around the fact that Labrov is level 5, he didn't get the 6 yet, so they can easily go in, as you can see, and even though it's the matchup that I would never expect Varus Nautilus to die, they still managed to do that, and it's not like, it's not a big thing, but it's more about Team Heretics actually making use of the XP advantage and the fact that enemy has to be under their tower.
Yeah, really solid fundamentals, finding plays on their level 6 dings whilst the enemy support was level 5, and that's probably because he was gone roaming or something like this. And in this last clip, we wanted to showcase this because it's not just 2v2 plays, it's also plays from the entire team, bringing mid down to bot, bringing Wonder down to bot, and actually finding dives. This is where they secure most of their early game leads.
And yeah, and as you can see, Fnatic is really disjointed. Vi is taking right now red buff instead of actually covering, so it's a really clever way of punishing enemy bot lane while pretty much right, and Fnatic is not even thinking about that. And yeah, like Wunder just coming in here, like we can think about who called it, right? But it comes from actually bot lane making sure that I can set up this play, and that's something that is really nice to see, and that's something that will be hopeful for the upcoming series against SK.
Yeah, absolutely. Securing leads against Vitality, BDS's bot lane as well. I think whilst SK's bot lane is struggling, that could definitely be an avenue of attack. Do you agree, Trimby?
Yeah, I completely agree, and that's something that I hope Team Heretics expands on, and I'm really hoping to see as well SK fighting it back, because if it's gonna be a good 2v2 battle with 2 junglers coming in, oh my, I mean, it's always nice to see actually.
Yeah, and now it's time for our first series of the day. Casters, over to you.